everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
My name is Ashton.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
How are we doing?
Sleepy.
Yeah, I'm sleepy too.
I'm
You
all right.
sleepy? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Did you drive in this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. When
Yeah.
did you arrive at the same?
Yeah, and I nodded at you.
Okay, I couldn't see you.
Right.
I thought there's no car because I saw there's no car.
Yeah.
In the spot.
The
Yeah.
triple jump spot.
The communal spot that we all share.
and there's a black car coming towards me. I can't remember what Peter's car looks like. I'm
Right.
fairly sure James's car is silver, and I think yours might be silver as well.
Mm-hmm.
The three of them share the spot.
We all have assigned days.
And so this car was coming towards me, and I was trying to see in through the windscreen, but I couldn't because it was all reflective.
Oh, yeah.
And then I could see hands on the steering wheel, and I think I saw some fingers go.
I think I did do that.
The
yeah,
little
with like
sort of
two fingers.
cheers sort of
Yeah.
little thing, and I couldn't double down. I felt too awkward, so I
Right.
just sort of walked inside.
And then 30 seconds later,
You
I
arrived,
walked
and I
into
was
the
like, "That
office.
must have been Peter."
That was
But I
him.
didn't want you to think that I was being rude.
I
wanted
didn't
to
think you were
address
being.
it in
I didn't
public,
think that
though.
you, my colleague of 5 years, was
Yeah.
ignoring me in the car park.
Yeah.
I thought he probably didn't see me.
When there was no one else there. No, I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
It was too I have this.
It would have been
problem
worse if you just
sometimes.
like flipped him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of my flipping car park, man. Who do you think you are? It happens a lot when you're like crossing the road and stuff, and the car slows down to let you go, but you can't see in because the windscreen's got sunlight on it.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's awkward, isn't it?
Do you know what I really hate in the
What?
morning is when I cross a road to go down a set of stairs near the office to get into work. And some people walk up that road to get to the stairs. And sometimes I see someone down the end of the road that is coming to work, but I like pretend I haven't seen them because I'm like, if I see them and I wave, it's going to be that awkward, like you're like 2 meters
yeah,
behind
do you
me.
have to wait for them?
And then it's like, ugh.
Or-
So sometimes I just pretend I haven't seen them, and sometimes I don't. Recently, James like had to tap me on the shoulder because I was so in the zone with my music, and he was literally right behind me, and it would have been awkward if he just appeared behind me when I
I
opened
followed
the
you into
door.
the office yesterday. Did you see me or
Yeah,
were
and
you
I
ignoring me?
pretended
Yeah, I
not
saw
to
you
see
too,
you.
and I ignored you.
But
as well.
you were like far enough back where I didn't feel like I had to
It was like
hold the
20
door open
meters.
for you.
No, that was fun. I wasn't expecting to hold the door, but I saw
I
you
checked if
crossing
you were
the
like
road.
in my peripheral when I opened the door.
And I saw
you
you was
weren't.
like, that's Ashton Matthews. I'm not going to look at her too much because then I'm going to have to acknowledge
It's
her.
that
and, like,
awkward thing,
start
isn't it? We're like a bit too far
conversation,
away,
and
but
I
you've
just can't be
noticed each
bothered.
other.
I'll see her in like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Anyway, welcome to
Anyway.
our video game podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Each and every week, we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor that helps us keep the lights on in this place. Still no Dead Island 2.
He's in my bathroom.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh my
His
god!
in your bathroom?
In my bathroom over there.
Over
Oh,
there.
in
this
the
one.
office,
In
not
the-
at home.
Oh,
No,
right.
in the
I thought you
office.
were like pointing to your house.
No,
but
no.
He's actually
in the
your...
office.
Oh.
Yeah. The other day
We found it.
I spotted Pete coming out of my toilet without asking if he could use it. And
Well, it's because someone was in the upstairs one.
yeah, but I was about to use the downstairs one. You're lucky you were coming out at the right time, or I'd have been upset.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
I don't just use it off like when,
No, I'm
when the
only
upstairs
I'm only
is empty.
joking.
Okay.
And
Whoa.
then as I
I
came
also
out,
do that all the time.
and then as I came out, or as I went in, there was a spider crawling down the wall, and I thought,
didn't see the
not only has
spider.
Peter used my bathroom, but he's also left a spider in
he's
here.
Like your
brought a
first
spider
day where I
in.
threw a spider at you by
Yeah,
accident.
Exactly. So I think Dead Island 2's in there.
Mm.
And I can't bring him through. I'm too scared to touch him.
Oh, I'm
He
sorry
likes
to
the
hear
toilet now.
that. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's around. Hopefully, he'll come back over here
Mm-hmm.
at some point. I've got the ad read this week. On the day of recording, it is Star Wars Day.
Yes.
May,
Yes,
the,
it
may
is.
the fourth
May the
be with
fourth be
you.
with
Oh,
you.
may the fourth be with you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm.
And now, Star Wars have partnered up with Uber to sort of help promote anti-drink driving measures, because May the 4th is an exciting day for Star Wars fans. They're all going to
Yeah.
go out, get wasted.
Notoriously.
Get white girl wasted
Yeah.
in town. And then how are they going to get home? Drive? I don't think so, says Disney and Uber. So they've announced a new initiative. It's called Star Wars Jedi Cab Driver.
Jedi cab driver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Cab Driver.
Okay.
And that way you can get home from May the 4th celebrations in your local town and not have to drink and drive.
Right. And are they like different from regular Uber drivers, or are they just regular Uber drivers?
Every
or not?
time you get into one, you can't hear each other think because it just goes. "Ma, ba, 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 da, 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 da,
Didn't
da."
he play Kylo Ren, cabin driver?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
He did actually. He was in both. He's very talented. No, that's not real. But
okay.
Shocking.
So you're all just going to have to drink and drive, unfortunately. The logic dictates that Disney doesn't care whether you drink and drive or not.
Don't drink and drive.
But we don't think you should. I'm just saying that Disney
does.
Disney
for
is
some reason.
actively not taking measures
Right.
to ensure that you don't. So that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not sponsored by Star Wars Jedi Cab Driver. We're, of course, sponsored by our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where for as little as $1 per month, you can submit questions to this podcast. There's loads of other tiers available as well. We want to address the question situation up front, actually, because we're going to change tact slightly. And this will be reflected in the Patreon posts if you are supporting us on Patreon. Thank you so much. We've been doing this podcast for how many episodes now?
217 episodes.
217 episodes. We love to answer questions about the anecdotal stuff, the peripherals you grew up with, which genre of games would you recommend to someone who's never played them before, that kind of stuff. Like we love those questions. However, there are only so many permutations of those questions that we can answer before we start to repeat on ourselves. Repeat on ourselves like it's a bad lunch that we've had. We do get asked some of the questions that we've answered before quite a lot. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to now try something a little different. The big discussion, as you will probably be aware, is usually focused on like the biggest news story of the week or something that's happening in the world of games. But there's tons of other news stories that pop up every single week. So instead of we're not asking you to submit news stories to us, but rather ask us about more contemporary things that's happening in the news and the world of games. And then we will pick one of them to be the big discussion. But as such, as is the case this week, we're going to be dropping question 3, and question 3 can come back in or out of rotation depending on how much news is in any given week. We hope that makes sense. And stay tuned on Patreon. If you are supporting us on Patreon, thank you so much. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump, because we will now be requiring you to send us interesting news questions so we can talk about the biggest things, what are happening. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you to our wonderful patrons. We love you all. It's time for question 1.
Dan Finn is a wonderful patron. Thank you, Dan, for asking question 1. Hey, Bappers, you may have seen the recent trailer for a hyper-realistic FPS called Unrecord. Bad name, isn't it?
Yes. D-film.
Yeah.
Yes. It does look unbelievable, so much so that I'm skeptical that it's real. Have you seen the trailer, and what are your thoughts? There's a whole other conversation about the people calling for the game, if it is real, to be banned because it's too realistic. Keep doing what you're doing. Keys, Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Finn was also in Star Wars, wasn't he? He's a character.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
You're right. It's real. That game is real.
Yeah.
You can tell there are a few things that you can see in that actual trailer that give away the fact that it's real. Some of the lighting and stuff is occasionally a little bit like, oh, that's a bit, it's not quite. But it does look very, very realistic. And it's partly achieved by sort of the fisheye lens and some of the animations and stuff. Like it's a very well put together combination of lots of little tricks and stuff. But as a follow-up to that trailer, given that loads of people were in the comments saying, this isn't real, that's just a live-action video, the developer said, it is real, here's the environment, and he was like flying around it with free camera and then like pressing a button that just like dropped him into wherever he was in that place. So it's been proven to be real, at least in the sense that, you know, there are still ways to make a trailer look perhaps more impressive than the game turns out to be. So it could be that like if and when this game comes out, it's like not quite what it appeared to be in that trailer. But that's something that's been a problem in the video games industry for decades now. You know, we've had all sorts of interesting dodgy like vertical slices where it's like, this is the game, and then you play it and it's not the game. But in terms of it being, you know, some people were literally just saying, is this live action video? No, it's not. It is based in a game engine, a video game world, and you can see him flying around and stuff, or her. I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the calls for the game to be banned as well. But did you see the trailer and think that it was realistic looking?
I think like if you didn't know, like you could probably if you just watched it and like gave it a cursory glance, you would be like, wow, that's real.
Yeah, I didn't spot any of the actual the clues.
I think
straight away.
there's like things that if you're watching and if you're looking kind of to see like, oh, is this a video game or is it real? Same way like with most AI things nowadays, you're like, is this AI or is someone like painted a bad picture kind of vibes? It kind of like if you just glanced at it or you were just watching it through the first time and just kind of like, look at this footage, I don't think you'd have any idea whether it was or wasn't a video game. I agree. Yeah. But also, it's not that realistic that it would have to be banned. Like if you can very easily prove by pointing out little bits that it's not real, then, you know, I don't think it needs to be banned. What a weird thing as well. What? Ban this because it looks too real. It's like watching a movie and being like, this movie seems too real. Ban it.
I don't think it's because of how real it is. It's because of the subject matter of it being a body cam game.
Well, and like having the agency to, because you could say, well, what about a live action, a film that's like really gory? Like, how is that any different? Even if we make games that look completely real, why should you ban those and not films? But it's being that person and having that control and running around and actually killing people yourself rather than watching John Wick do it, you know, I think is the argument to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I think it looks incredible visually. Like it's really, really impressive. And I think actually our editor, Alex, pointed out something on Twitter that you can see when one of the bodies falls over, there's no shadow or something like that. Just sort of little clues like that. And in addition to the developer showing the video, IGN apparently also independently verified it was real by downloading the same Unreal 5 engine assets that we used in the thing. I don't necessarily think that it should be banned. However, I do think it's kind of in poor taste, you know, given the spate of police brutality that's going on all across the world and the truly upsetting body cam footage that is often released in the wake of those incidents. I think it doesn't mean that you can't touch this area, but it certainly seems that this game is just going to be you running around with a body cam shooting criminals. And while you do that in a lot of games, I think the fact that it's being presented so realistically from this perspective, of course it's going to raise eyebrows. Like, of course people are going to take issue with it.
I don't know if I feel that way about it though. Like, I think to me, the only comparison between the obviously horrible things that have happened recently in the news is that it is from the body cam perspective, but the actual content of the game, like the people who you are attacking are shooting back at you, kind of thing. Like it's the worst stories that we've heard from body cam incidents over the past few years are the ones where like the police are completely overreaching, to say the least, you know, to put it mildly, and you know people are even like outright complying or at least aren't shooting back or attacking. You know, they might be struggling and resisting, but you know, he in the trailer, the police guy goes into the building, and I think at first he sees someone sprint down a corridor, and then almost immediately they start firing back at him. And I think in that sense, I find it less offensive than I would obviously a game that depicted just outright police brutality against people who weren't returning fire. But it's a sensitive issue, and it being presented as body cam definitely is where you can maybe raise the eyebrow, I guess. I
want to say something that people might get annoyed about.
Right. Go on, Ashton.
I thought it was cool that it like looked so real, but I found it incredibly boring.
Oh, I was just about to say that. I don't think this looks like it's going to be a fun game.
I
wouldn't want to play it.
I don't find that interesting at all. Like, obviously, nowadays we've got games that are very, very visually stunning. And, you know, they've got realistic details of faces and facial expressions and foliage and that kind of thing. Beards.
She's got a beard.
Why is that woman got a beard?
Why is the lady from Horizon
got a beard? Why is she so hairy? And, like, those kind of games like God of War or Horizon, for example, have a style that's not based in reality, and I find that so much more interesting than a hyper-realistic version of a world of which I live in and can go outside and see some graffiti if I wanted to. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I couldn't go around shooting criminals, but I could see some graffiti and walk into an abandoned building if I fancied. And I just found it boring. Like, I was like impressed by it. If it was like, this is what Unreal Engine can do, here is a demo of what you can do with it, like the Matrix thing a little while ago. Like, cool, great. I'm glad that games are moving to the point where this is something that can be done, but I'm not interested. like in that kind of thing. It's just not really my bag. I know some people love like, you know, a Call of Duty that look that real. Yeah. But also, if you're playing Call of Duty, you're again not really there for the visuals. You're there to shoot enemies and take down insurgents. But I just find it boring.
Yeah,
like the vibe.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I mean, it's ultimately, I think the reason it went so viral is because it's a tantalizing look at what's possible with Unreal 5 and what games could possibly look like. It's definitely struck me as a tech demo. Like, I'm not interested in playing a game like that.
No.
Looks pretty tedious to me. There was, I've got a screenshot here of some dialogue options where you're holding someone at gunpoint, and one of the options is, who are you? The other is, everything will be fine. The next one is, where is Oscar? And the last one is, you will pay, with an exclamation mark.
You will pay.
So I think at best it's going to be beautiful and rubbish. If indeed this ever comes out. And you know, it's an indie developer, and I don't want to plop all over this thing, but also I want to get people's expectations in check. Like, just because it looks amazing doesn't mean it will be amazing. The two are not the same thing, especially if IGN were able to download the assets the game
it's essentially an asset
uses.
flip.
So like you know, these are going to be a dime a dozen. You're going to get actual really good games. However, there's that age-old debate between photorealism and art direction. Like, I think Star Wars Jedi Cab Driver is a beautiful game and it looks fantastic. It's not photorealistic though. No. And if it was photorealistic, it might actually be a bit boring to live in that world. Like, I want it to be a bit fantastical.
Well, and also the argument, not just art direction versus realism, but just generally visuals versus narrative, or you know, like a game can
content.
Yeah, exactly. It can look as good as anything, but if it's boring or, you know, has really irritating characters, that makes all the difference.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then of course there's the body cam perspective, which is also part of the reason why there was a lot of discourse around it. But hey, you can't deny it looks bloody amazing. So fingers crossed we see more amazing things out of Unreal 5 soon. Let us know what you think about this in the comments below. And other places you can find us. Peter's going to tell you about them right now. No, he's not.
No, he's
We're not doing
We're
that
not
yet.
skipped all the questions.
We're going to a news section.
Oh.
Yeah, we got rid of question 3 and we replaced it with this. It's time to talk about... No. Hey, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Everything's changing. It's time for a new segment that we're calling What We Playin'.
It's What We Play in time to talk about the games, what we've been playing. I also just want to clarify quickly, just in case people are worried, they're just going to talk about news forever. I think we'll still cycle in questions occasionally, like as and when, but question 3 is going to be just an intermittent thing, and we want to focus more on sort of topical questions now.
They get it.
The thing is, I'm worried that they don't. And I want to be clear.
Hey.
Well, and also some news stuff will spin off into more anecdotal. For example, when we get to question 2, that is just someone asking a non-newsy story.
Yeah.
But feasibly, there could have been something in the news this week about... We'll get to it. You'll see what I mean when we get to question 2. It's not always going to be like about the industry.
We're in a feeling out process, but we're just trying to communicate with you as clearly as possible why we're doing it and what we're doing. But it may take many forms, and we'll all learn together and grow. We just want to be open with you.
Yeah.
We just want to have a dialogue,
right.
you know? Well,
communication is important in a relationship. This is us communicating with you.
And we love you.
Telling you our feelings.
Yeah.
We don't want this relationship to end.
No, we don't.
And that's why we're communicating
Exactly.
with you.
We should have a baby about it. That would save the relationship, right?
Let's do it.
What's the safe word? Is it...
It's, Peter, what you've been playing this week.
Right.
Peter, please tell us what you've been playing this week, please.
I've been playing this week some more Bramble the Mountain King, which is... it's pretty grim at times.
Is it spooky? Because it was pretty spooky in the demo.
It can be spooky, yeah. Okay. It's not... it is just so... I mean, I don't want to say whiplash, because that's almost got like a negative connotation, but it's like... It is... A roller coaster is how I've described it, in that there are just these really nice moments and then really horrific moments. And I'm like learning stuff about Nordic folklore, which I'm glad about, because, you know, you play the first sort of hour or hour and a half and you think like, okay, well, I've been told the names of these creatures. Like, I know that that's a troll and that's a gnome and that's kind of it. That's all I've learned. And then you start to encounter things where you're like, what is this? Like, where is this derived from? And then fortunately, it does eventually start to tell you these things. It's like, okay, that's great. Like, I'm curious. So I played a bit of that. and then I restarted it from the beginning because I've decided to stream it, and you can't have more than one game running at the same time, which is a bit annoying, but whatever. So I've restarted that now, and I'll just be playing it on stream. But also this week, I was randomly recommended on YouTube a video about people who play an old version of Minecraft. Beta 1.7.3
Okay.
is considered like the pinnacle of retro Minecraft. Like before it was officially released, that is apparently like the best version for a lot of people who like to play Minecraft nostalgically. And I was like, man, yeah, I remember when I actually like understood everything about Minecraft and everything it had to offer and what all of the blocks and items do. And I do not understand that now. And there are like weird enemies and weird places and things that I don't get. So I did a little bit of like reading on it, and I realized it's very easy to just install really old versions of Minecraft like natively on the Minecraft launcher. You don't have to use like a mod or anything.
Oh, wow.
There's just a little tab that allows you to do that. So I didn't go as far back as beta 1.7.3, but I had a quick look through the various different updates, like the history of like all the updates they did on the Minecraft wiki. I chose the one I wanted, and I've installed a very old version of Minecraft, and I've just been playing old Minecraft that I understand. And I've like built like a tree farm and a base and like wheat fields and stuff, and I'm just really enjoying it. Nice. So despite the fact that I've got so much to play, I've not started Star Wars yet, and there's something else I can't remember. Oh, Cheer I wanted to play as well. I saw this video and I was like, man, I could really go for a bit of retro Minecraft. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm playing just Minecraft in my own time on PC. I can't remember what version it actually is, but I can tell you next week if I look it up.
Is it giving you big Shadows of Israel?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Oh my God, I loved that series.
Yeah.
I was obsessed.
Everyone did.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It's sort of taking me back to just that time in my life where, I don't know. It is just very relaxing, and that music as well. That soundtrack is, really something.
What's the name of that artist? It's like one guy, isn't it? Or a couple of guys.
It's just like it's just some like letters and numbers or something. I can't remember what.
C something.
Something at 811. I'll find out. Yeah. But that's what I've been playing. Minecraft from about 2013. I don't know when it was.
Amazing.
I've played some games this week.
Go on, Ashton.
I have finished off Horizon Burning Shores. I did all of the side bits and pieces and got all of the stuff.
Cool.
C418.
C418.
Lovely.
Cool. And yeah, I think it's great. I love that game. It's very pretty and no more to say then. I like it.
Are you going to go back and do the main stuff in the full game now on your new game?
I've done the main story. And I finished that. And now I finished the DLC. I kind of don't want to go back and finish everything up, like mop everything up in my New Game Plus run, because there's just simply not the time. Like, there's so many games that have come out in the last week or so. They just haven't got time to go back and do all the side stuff in that game. So I've uninstalled it now.
Oh.
Just because I'm like, there's not time. There's not time to have it on my PlayStation. I have not the room in my brain or on my PlayStation, so it's had to go. Okay. But I enjoyed the DLC and I enjoyed the game and I still love it. So maybe one day I'll go back and do it again.
Yeah.
Not on ultra hard though, because I don't hate myself. I have played some Dead Island 2 in co-op. Well, I tried to play it in co-op, but that game, the first area doesn't work. You can't play co-op in the first area because it just kicks you out over and over and over again. I was trying to play with my boyfriend, like in his first time playing it. I've played through the beginning like twice now, and I was just trying to play with him, and it was just not working in the first area. But then I went to the second area, which is a smaller one. Totally fine. No problems there at all. Didn't crash once. Didn't kick me out at all. Second, we went back to the other area. I'm kicked out again.
Oh, God.
So I don't know, I don't know if it's because if people are playing, they're in the first area more because it's kind of got like a location you have to come back to a bit more. I'm not sure. But yeah, so the first area you can't play co-op in, and I don't know if we'll go back to playing it in co-op because, again, there's just so much else out at the moment. But I still enjoy that game, so I'm probably going to play it once I've finished Fallen Order, which I've also been playing this week. And I am obsessed with changing Cal's face and outfit.
Yeah, me too.
I just love it. Every time I find a chest, I'm just praying that it's going to be a cosmetic item. Like, I just want either a beard or new hair or some new clothes or new colours for my clothes. I just can't help it. I'm obsessed. I love it.
It's an interesting game to latch onto in terms of the character customization, because it's not like you wouldn't consider it to be a principal aspect of it.
Absolutely not. And like when I played the first game, I would just try and match BD and Cal's outfits and then try and match them with the area that we were in. But then when I found the mullet, it all changed.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I got that mullet, I was like, yeah, I'm into this now. This is what I'm going to do. So currently my Cal is wearing it's called the pilot top, and it's like a white button-up shirt, like jacket with like lapels. What are they called on your shoulders?
Lapels.
Are they called?
No, they are lapels.
Okay.
Oh no, they're not.
They're
There's
not.
like there's a.
You mean like the sort of
The shoulder pads.
There's the little the people who were in the
little
military
loopy
will
things.
know what they're called.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but anyway, yeah. So that's all in white, and he's wearing chaps. No, not arseless, just chaps, and he's got was it handlebar mustache? No, yeah, that goes down to his chin. He's wearing a mullet, and I'm obsessed with it. And whenever we're in a cutscene and something like emotional is happening, or like there's a bit of story, he's just there, and I can't stop. Epaulette, thank you. I can't stop giggling when I see him, and it makes my boyfriend so mad because he's like, "That's not. You're not playing it right. He looks
This
ridiculous."
isn't in the spirit of the game.
It's like, how are you going to have him look like this? And I was like, I can't help myself.
He looks rad.
And he's running around with a pink lightsaber, which my boyfriend said looks like a toy because I've made it pink and blue. And BD is also pink and blue and orange. Like I was like, well, they match each other. My lightsaber, my other stuff, and BD. They all match each other.
Yeah.
And he says it looks ridiculous. I won't say what he said it looked like I was running around with because it's inappropriate. But
Wow. We can infer immediately. So
but I'm enjoying that. But I think we're going to do a review on that. So we'll talk more about it.
yeah,
That's
we'll
it.
talk more about it in a second.
Yeah, we will.
You also played.
I played some Redfall.
You played some Redfall,
Right.
Which again, I will save for review corner in a moment.
And obviously we'll be talking about that more in the big discussion later.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps not in as much detail about how the game works, but the potential fallout of it.
How it's been received.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, yeah, unfortunate. By the time you are listening to this, we will all have played the new Wales Interactive
Yes.
Game of the Year
Yes.
contender, Mia and the Dragon Princess. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite made the cut for a discussion on this week's podcast because it comes out today at the time of recording.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get together tomorrow, a group of us, and have basically a viewing party for this Wales Interactive
I can't
game.
wait.
It's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
It's clearly shot in one room from all of the footage they've released, and they've just sort of dressed it up to try and make it look like it's in several locations, and that's so exciting to me.
My very favourite moment, I was editing the trailer into the May roundup the other day, and there's a moment where like they've panned around this bar that they're in, and they pan across this guy who's clearly an actor playing like someone who knows how to make a cocktail, because he's just tossing this thing around like he's just spinning it around in his hand. And I was watching it and I was like, no, I'm no expert, but that's not how you make a cocktail.
You
babe.
are an expert because we did approve it.
Well,
That
we
is true. We
actually
did
have
approve it,
proved
but
it.
he's trying to like flair bartend. It's one, clearly empty, and two, like he's just tossing it around. And I kept rewatching the same clip because I just found it hilarious. But
There
I
was
can't wait.
that trailer of the couple who were arguing with each other that they released, that clip on Twitter, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like the most unhingedly, that's not even a word, aggressive back and forth. That's like so comical, and I don't know if it's intended to be.
I think it must be. But I can't wait. I'm so excited to
Our
play it
relationship
tomorrow.
with Wales Interactive, we're building one. Like
Yeah.
we DM with them now.
Twitter DM.
I tweet them
Shout
all
out
the
Ben
time.
and Christy.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to us. We're like calling them out constantly about letting us be in one
Yeah.
of their
Yeah.
games. I think it could happen, to be honest.
It's possible.
We're manifesting it.
We're not shutting up about it. They tweeted.
Maybe we
a
need
few
to
months
take a
ago.
clip from one of the videos where we
recreate
say
it.
no and put it, but that, but
Show that
also
we're better.
like a clip from one of our podcasts, take it out, put it on Twitter, and tag them in it because they might not sit through a whole podcast, but they might sit through a 1 minute
Well,
clip.
you called them
where
out
we
in the
talk
main
about it.
thing. We talk about it all the time in the podcast. You're right. Maybe we should clip it out and put it on there. And also, they tweeted a few months ago asking, so if we had like some sort of insider program, what kind of rewards would you want? And I just straight up said, maybe some of your like biggest fans should be allowed to be extras in your games. And a lot of people liked it. And they said, "Oh, that's a good idea." Actually, I don't know if they
Whoa.
were just appeasing me, but
Yeah, they've just
Yeah.
been polite.
yeah, we're gonna keep pushing.
We're going to
for
be
it.
in one of the games.
It's gonna happen.
We have to.
It's gonna
We'll go
happen.
to Wales. It's fine.
We'll go all the way to Wales.
We'll
come
road
to
trip
you.
to Wales.
Yeah.
Do you
can't
think
wait.
they actually film it all in Wales and they don't bother
Well, they've
leaving,
made two
like,
of them.
going on location
Well, I don't
They've
know.
clearly
anywhere else in the
rented
UK?
a big house once and shot 2 games in
Right.
it back to
Yeah.
back
But
because it's the same location.
I think Mir and Dragon Princess is actually filmed in London
Well,
because
that's
it's a
what I
bit
mean,
along
yeah,
the
we wouldn't
Thames,
even
I
have to go
think.
to
so-
Wales.
they have done
necessarily.
some London shooting before.
But it may just be that they filmed the bulk of it in Wales, then did a day shoot in London.
Yeah.
But
yeah, just some nighttime stuff.
if you're ever in Newcastle, you can
Let
stay at
us
our
know.
house.
There's lots of places you could shoot in Newcastle.
Film
It's
here.
very exciting.
Yeah.
We've got green screen.
We know a good like Fallout looking road, don't we?
We do. We know where that is.
Yeah.
There's also down underneath the bridges around the corner where we shot a lot of stuff when we first started.
They blocked that
TripleJump.
off now, though.
What?
It's got a big fence across it.
You can't go down there. You can walk your dog down there.
What, down around the corner where they're under the bridge?
Oh no, not that bit. Like the
Oh,
bit
right,
yeah,
around
I
the other
see.
side of
I see where
Gingerino's,
you
which
mean now.
where Gingerino's was. It was a pizza place nearby. Yeah, so we've got the location. We can scout for locations.
Yeah.
we can be back. We don't even need speaking lines. We just need to be in it. We just
Yeah.
want to walk across the back of a scene and be in one of the games.
But we will take a speaking line.
We will take a speaking line if you've got them. But, like we're not. You
We've
know,
also got more bartending experience than that guy.
Yeah.
We do. We can wrestle.
Yeah, we can wrestle.
We can. What else? We can kart race. What else have we proved? We can banjo kazooie. We
Yeah.
can cook.
We can
yeah.
cook, yeah, really good.
We've got all these skills, and I'm kind of curious actually how Wales Interactive views us because they seemingly know that the stuff they put out is kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
And I love their games, but it's like it's so steeped in like dripping in irony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like sarcasm.
You're
It's like
ruining
an-
it. You're ruining it. They're not going to let us in
It's
the
an
game.
ironic love of their games, like because I think they're obviously like bad.
Their newer
But
stuff is like definitely
It's better than it was.
objectively better than some of the old
but
stuff.
it's still like cheesy
as.
and the acting is like all over the place. The writing
Yeah.
is kind of laughable and like, but I love it. And I think they know that that's their niche, but I still feel sorry for like the actors and the directors who are involved because they probably take it pretty seriously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
like
that's
they're
their job.
all in, but they're busy like sharing clips of like Limmy who's played it on Twitch and just like clearly taking the piss.
Yeah.
But they do it themselves. Like the clips they put on Twitter are so random. Like
They
when
are,
that
which
French
is why
woman
I'm
runs
so
in and goes,
curious.
"She didn't pay for the spring roll." Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
What?
shoving a spring roll in her mouth,
Yeah,
and then
they
the
don't
little girl
actually
gives her a
include,
thumbs up.
You know, like a kind of a hint about what the story is really going to be about, or like a clue maybe that will help you in the game. It's like, no, it's just she did pay for a spring roll.
Yeah. So this is why there's like a real tonal dissonance between how I think seriously the actors and directors and writers, the people making the game take it, and the people who are promoting the game on social media. I'm fascinated. I just hope we don't annoy them because I don't think I can pretend that their games are like objectively amazing.
We've never played one on the channel, have we?
No.
Because we talk about them all the time, and some people will just. They probably haven't been asked to actually look them up, and so have no idea what
They're
we're
like
really
£6.
talking about. Yeah.
You should do it.
Why haven't we ever streamed one?
I think it's because I'm worried.
they copyrighted a few of the
did they?
earlier
Yeah.
streams that you did, but they've now said that they don't do that anymore. So
Right.
I mean,
know
we
them,
could give
so
them a
maybe
go.
we could ask. Yeah, we could definitely do like a Wales interactive movie night or something on stream at some point. But yeah, there we are. That's going to have happened by the time you're listening to this, and I'm sure it's bloody amazing. I can't wait. It's also £9 if you want to buy it and play it.
Yeah.
So there we are. This isn't an ad. The games I've been playing this week, I really wanted to play through Resistance: Fall of Man in co-op once I finished Gears 5 in co-op. So I got my PS3 set up. I downloaded the update because for some reason there was an update.
Right.
I went onto the PlayStation Store just to have a look, just to see what was going on there. It took like 5 minutes to load the PlayStation Store, and then to download games. They maybe go perhaps one, or what am I trying to say? 1 megabyte per second, I think, was how fast it was downloading. So clearly there's huge, and this was always the case on PS3, there's huge throttling in the download speeds just through PSN for PS3, and I imagine that's only going to get worse. So that was pretty terrible. But while I was waiting for that stuff to get set up, I booted up Super Stardust HD, which was installed on there, and I had a fantastic time blasting loads of space rocks and shooting alien nasties and things, and I think that game is fantastic, and I would like another Super Stardust very much because I think it's an excellent arcade shooter. But I don't know if Housemarque will do that now, given that they are busy making big boy AAA games like Returnal and that. So,
And that.
but that's a great game, and I did enjoy it a lot. I think that's where I got my first ever trophies from, actually, that game. I was rubbish at it, and it was one of the first games to be patched to support trophies, and I got my friend who was good at the game to play some bits of it for me so I could get some bronze trophies. And I was like, oh my God,
Wow.
I've got some trophies. Apart from that, I've been playing a flip load of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which we'll talk about momentarily in Review Corner. I am really enjoying that game in spite of its issues, and I do have some frustrations with it, but like I'm genuinely really enjoying this game. And I'm wondering if it's because I was going in on at launch relatively blind in that I haven't seen any trailers. I haven't been looking at any trailers or anything. I've set my expectations pretty low, and I was just going in because I didn't enjoy the first game as much as everyone else did. And by the time I played it, everyone had told me it was the greatest thing ever made, and it wasn't. And I had a lot of issues with the first game, but this one, really liking it. I've also played some Redfall, which also exists. But we're going to talk about both of those right now in Review Corner. And we're here.
We are.
We're in the Review Corner. You can't see us, but you can hear us, hopefully. If you're listening to the audio version, you can still hear us. You can only hear us before. We've got 2 games on the docket today, Ashton.
We do, and we've both played both of them for varying amounts of time. But I thought we should start by talking about Redfall.
Yes.
The big release from Xbox this month that came out on the 2nd. We've both given it a go. We played it together for the same amount of time on stream.
Yes, you can go and watch the VOD now on the VOD channel.
You can.
And also, very quickly, it's on Game Pass, but Bethesda did actually send me a code to play. So thank you very much to Bethesda for that. Per ASA guidelines, this is a new thing we have to do. Per ASA guidelines, we have to disclose that under their guidelines, that does technically make this section an ad.
Yes,
however,
we were not paid.
We were not paid. No financial retribution. That's it. No, that's not the word. Compensation. There was no financial compensation, but the ASA have got these new guidelines, and we just have to say that to cover our bottoms.
Yes. So I played the game on PC. You gave it a go on Xbox.
Yes.
Series S.
Series S.
So essentially, the plot of Redfall is that they tell you the story in this beginning cutscene. There's no animated cutscenes in this game. It's all told in like slideshows, PowerPoints,
like
with
slow
some,
zooms on static images.
Yeah, with some voiceover. And essentially there's this voice saying, oh, it's all my fault because they used my blood to bring people back to life. They called it like a life juice. That's not what they say, but basically that.
Classic life juice.
And then people start turning into vampires. No. And the 4 main characters, which are all able to be picked by you or your friends, have tried to leave on a boat, but upon trying to leave, the vampires froze the ocean in time.
Yes.
And which looks like jelly. And you have to go back into Redfall to figure out what's going on and try and save the world.
Yeah, it's sort of like an open world. It's Far Cry.
It's Far Cry.
It's an open world shooter.
Far Cry in 4-player. It's by Arcane and Bethesda, and it is so far removed from anything Arcane has done before. Like it's so. If you told me it was by a different studio, I would believe you because it's
who made
nothing.
Deathloop.
Yeah,
It doesn't look anything like that.
Like the fact that there isn't any animated cutscenes, the way it looks, it's just so far from what we've come to expect
Stealth
from
kills,
Arcane.
there's no
Yeah,
animations.
you just thump the guy in the back and he's dead.
Just do a melee hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I played as Layla, whose abilities are it's kind of weird. Like in the cutscenes, it looks like she's got loads of powers, but she can basically do a big umbrella shield in front of you, absorb bullets, and then fire it back at them.
It's like magic. Isn't
Like
it?
magic, yeah. She can make like jump pads, and then her final ability is summoning in her dead vampire boyfriend to go and fight with her,
Cool.
which I've not unlocked yet. You played as Remy.
Remy, yeah, who has a little robot companion called Bribon.
Bribon.
However, we just called him Bribon.
Bribon.
And he was rubbish.
Rubbish.
He's always walking around with you, but his main power is that he can cause a distraction. So you direct him to go stand somewhere and he'll run out and then he'll sit there and he'll wag his little robot tail and he'll just sort of go wee and sort of scream.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes he will either not distract anyone. Sometimes he won't go to the place you'll tell him to go to and he'll just sit next to you and do it and call everyone over. Or when he does distract people, they look at him for a second and then look right past him at you and then they just run towards you.
Yeah.
That's one of her powers. The other one that I unlocked was just C4. You just throw some C4.
Just grenade.
And the other classes may be better, but certainly Remy, is it Remy?
Remy, I think so, yeah.
I was not very impressed.
No, and the other class that we experienced with the other player was, I think his name's Phil. I might not be, I don't actually know. But he's got a bird, and the bird flies in, and he pinpoints where all of the enemies are, and then there's another ability that you go invisible. So the thing about it is that it just lacks everything. Like it just doesn't have personality. The voice acting is great, the characters talk, and if you're playing in co-op, the more you play together, the more conversations you unlock by doing missions together.
Jacob,
thank you. Sorry, it's nothing like Philip. And you go into an area, you go to a safe house, you turn the power on in the safe house, you do the safe house mission, and you do that a few times and you can unlock, the neighborhood, your typical Far Cry situation. There's vampires and cultists with guns, but they're not very interesting, and they're few and far between. They're not really hanging around.
Stupid as well.
Yeah. The AI is terrible.
It is really bad. Like the encounters with vampires should be scary, but they're almost laughable because they're like glitching through walls and flying way too fast in like really tight circles. And not only is it laughable, but it also makes it kind of hard to play. Yeah. Because it runs at 30 frames per second. So it looks noticeably not 60 frames. But then also it doesn't always run at 30 frames per second even. The game looks visually just kind of rubbish.
It looks like Fortnite.
It looks a bit Fortnitey. It looks like it's covered with a layer of Vaseline. There's loads of motion blur. The character animations are weird, or there's no character animation. It feels unfinished, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It feels like a beta for a game that's not out yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I also just think that a lot of what we've been offered and what they've given us is just not interesting. Like, the skills aren't interesting or fun. I find myself just using the guns most of the time and not even bothering with the skills. Yeah. Like the safe house missions are just go and get this.
Go to this place,
get this. Go to this place, get this. Yeah. And I'm like I say, it's glitchy. So I was playing it on PC, and when I initially booted it up, I turned off DLSS because it was making all of the character models' bones basically like glitch through their screens.
Good.
And it was like, that's not great. So turn that off, and then it was running. It ran pretty solidly at about 50 FPS for the most part. However, there was, like you say, some big frame drops in like the most random areas where nothing's going on. There's this big like drained lake, and just running across the lake, my frames went down to like 10 FPS. And I'm like, what is happening? There's nothing here. There's no enemies. There's no particle effects. I'm not doing anything apart from running. So why is it struggling so much? But it does just feel unfinished. Like in terms of actually, playing with your pals, I had a bit of fun. I enjoyed it.
Exactly. We had fun in spite of everything else going on, not because of everything.
Exactly. And I could see myself and a friend diving into the game and just having a bit of fun for like a few hours and then packing it in and going and doing something that's better. But weirdly, my boyfriend said he enjoyed it more than Dead Island 2. But I think maybe he was just not in a good mood when he played Dead Island 2 because but yeah, I think that, you know, the gunplay is relatively fun. Like the guns feel powerful. They don't feel...
It's all loot based as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you'll find the same guns over and over again, but this one is a level 3 gun, a level 4 gun. So it's that kind of thing where you're constantly changing up your weapons, but not in I think an interesting Borderlands way where it's entirely randomly generated and there's billions of combinations. It's just this one has +3 damage and is level 4 and purple. So you're going to want to use that.
But also there's like tons of notes dropped around like to build the story out. And it's just, I'm not going to read all these notes. There's just they're everywhere. And
it's interesting that they've gone through that approach because clearly a lot of effort's been made to flesh out the world, but not in a way that's easily consumable. And I mean, reading is easy enough, but like you have to stop playing the game to do it. And I just feel like maybe voice notes or more cutscenes. It actually reminded me a lot of Back 4 Blood. Did you play that?
Yeah, it's very much like Back
So when
4
you
Blood.
go into the safe houses and there's the people that you're chatting to and stuff, they all stand in their own little sections of the safe house, and some of them sell different things.
Yeah.
And they sort of awkwardly stand there with very little animations, and they're almost set dressing in a way. And the weapons as well aren't that exciting. Like sometimes they look pretty cool, like they've got interesting skins on them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. It just feels so
it feels like
weird.
a vampire. It's soulless.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's a vampire game and it's soulless. And it's so strange that it's coming from Arcane.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like
That's the biggest
they started
disappointment, I
making
think.
one game and then were told, can you make it 4-player co-op, please? It just feels so... They were the ones that ultimately fumbled the ball on this. And you know, they made it. However, it does feel like they've made a game that they are wholly unsuited to make because they've never made anything like it before.
Yeah.
And sometimes developers can do very well with that, like Guerrilla and Horizon Forbidden, the first one.
Zero Dawn.
Zero Dawn, thank you. But in this case, it's just not worked.
It's just not worked.
It clearly wasn't ready yet. And even if it did run at 60 frames per second, even if it wasn't buggy, I still don't think it would be that interesting.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, like you say, if it ran perfectly, I still don't think it would have been a good game.
Yeah.
You know, it's a shame and it's disappointing it comes from Arcane, but if hopefully with a few patches and in a few months' time, it will be a game that will be fun to play.
Yeah. There's fun to be had in it.
Yeah.
We proved that when we
Do
streamed
not
it.
spend £70 on it.
Don't buy it. Get it on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And, you know, as you say, with a few patches, it'll be more stable and you'll be able to have fun blasting through it with a couple of friends or just a friend or maybe even by yourself, although I think it would probably be less fun in solo.
Yeah.
However, if that's how we're looking at this game as just, hey, after a few patches, it might be fun to, you know, blast through it in co-op, is that really what Xbox wants?
No.
From their flagship games?
Absolutely not.
Maybe we should talk about that in the big discussion.
Hey, let's
today.
hold that conversation
let's wait.
for later.
Let's wait. We have another thing to talk about, though.
We do, that
Move
we've
on
been
to something a
playing.
bit more positive.
Yes.
Devinda, by the way, is the other Redfall character that you can play
Devinda,
as.
yes. Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
What a bloody video game.
I know. It's good.
It's really good.
I do feel like we should point out, though, that it runs like ass.
Yes, I was going to save the negatives until the end, but yes, it does run like, up front, it runs badly.
Yes.
They're trying to fix that, but it does run badly, and we'll talk about that in more detail in a minute. So, to set the scene, the game continues the story of Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, or Cal Kiskis.
Cal Kiskis.
It's set 5 years after the first game. Cal's original crew is split up, and he travels with a new outfit, working. And I don't mean that like his clothing. I mean,
Yeah, but he does have a new outfit.
He's got a new outfit, and he's with new people, working with rebel groups to fight back against an ever-expanding empire. And then I'm not going to go into any more details because that's revealed as you go through the game. But it's Cal continuing his fight against the empire.
Yeah.
But now, like, he's an actual adult, like a grown-up. One of the things I found so annoying about the first game was I thought Cal was kind of irritating. I wasn't a huge fan of his character. I know he's based on a real person, and it's kind of mean to say, but his face always kind of annoyed me. Now you can put a beard on him.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Love that. You can customize his clothing. You can you find beards and all sorts, like you were saying earlier.
I'm
like,
obsessed
you can find
with
them
them.
everywhere. What's your current Cal looking like?
My current Cal, I think I did just talk about this. So he's got a mustache and a mullet, and he looks like an 80s pop star.
Yeah.
And I love him. He looks perfect.
Okay.
If I can change the color of his hair, I will.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I've really enjoyed this game so far.
Yeah.
It's like kind of it's full to the brim with stuff.
Yes.
Like there's all different kinds of things you can get, collect fish. and songs. And there's like a new kind of board game-esque mechanic that you can play in the tavern. You've got like a home world and a hub tavern that you can recruit people to come back to. Yeah. And I think it's got a lot more personality than the first game already. I've played like a good few hours. I did spend the first, I'd say, about 7 or 8 hours on the first planet.
Kobo.
Before I even left to go to anywhere else. Yeah. But I think it like, and I like the mechanics that they've introduced. There's a lot of new stuff in terms of like combat and how you play the game, and if you prefer to use one lightsaber, big lightsaber, two lightsabers, four, if you decide how you want to play. And I do like that as well. And
it doesn't wait too long before introducing that stuff to you either, which is nice. So you're not just stuck with your single lightsaber thing. You can actually customize a lot right from the get-go, which is really lovely. I think the combat feels way better to me in this game than the last one, because I love Soulsborne games, and everyone said to me, this was another reason why I was so cross, I think, is everyone said to me, oh, it's like Souls-like combat, like you'll love it. And then I tried it and thought, this is really annoying. I've got a lightsaber. Why am I not just cutting through this spider? Yeah. Why is Ogdo Bogdo the hardest boss I've ever faced in any game? Why is he like right at the start? I'm really cross. I'm not having fun. I'm grumpy now. Whereas this one, I feel like it's actually really well balanced. Yeah. Apart from when it's not. Yes. Because there are insane difficulty spikes every so often. Yeah. And I have like, life's too short. I have just dropped the difficulty for those and then put it back up to where I was to normal. But like, I really feel like I can be good at this game, and I didn't feel like I could be good at the last game. The map, so much better.
Oh my God.
So much
fast
clearer.
Travel. Thank you so much.
Fast travel between the meditation points, which is where you can rest and spend your skill points and go through the skill tree. And there's perks that you can put in this time as well. The Metroidvania style world design obviously is back. So you will encounter things that you can't do just yet. Yeah. And you need to come back later, which I have found to be like a really satisfying loop, where I will come back to Kobo after going and doing a story mission and unlocking something, and then looking across the map to see if there's any green bits on it that I can
that always feels nice.
And then go through and tick those off, fast travel to those, or use a rideable mount to get there, which is so much easier.
Fly on a bird. Glide on a bird.
You can glide on birds. There's these little sort of like tauntaun. They're not tauntauns, but they're those things.
Yeah, the little bird. They look like chocobos, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then there's a Spammel.
Spammel is a brilliant name for an
They
animal.
look horrible.
They're really scary.
They look like they would be wet to the touch.
I don't like them.
No.
But yeah, you can ride on those, which is great. The saloon you mentioned is really lovely. The little base of operations, that's another part of the loop where you finish, you go back to the saloon and you talk to everyone there because they've got new things to say.
There's new rumors that they'll give you. And
rumors, so you can go back out into the map and like seek those out. They won't spawn unless you get the rumor, so that's worth doing. You can put the fish that you find into the fish tank. There's a rooftop garden where you can plant the seeds. Yeah. It's like that kind of meta game stuff is one of the things I really enjoyed about the Mass Effect games, like walking around the Normandy and talking to all my comrades and stuff. Admittedly, I found my team members in Mass Effect far more engaging than I do with Jedi Survivor, but it's still like a really nice thing it makes you feel immersed, like there's like stuff is happening in the game world as you do things. Like,
and once you've obviously gone and come back from a main mission, that things that they've got to say are changed because they've been talking to each other and they've got like, they'll be like, oh, so-and-so's told me about this now. And you're like, oh, cool. So you've been talking while I've been away. That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. It does. It feels really a lot more immersive, and like I say, it's just got a lot more personality than the first game. Like you feel you're part of the universe a lot more. I think
absolutely, it's a far more confident game, and it like they clearly addressed almost all of the issues from the first game that I had with it, which is great. And then they were able to just add loads of flourishes, which is really lovely. However, before you get to that satisfying loop where you just check on the map and go to the green bit, you do actually have to explore the entirety of Kobo. And my God, it's massive. Yeah. Now, I was part of a small group of people who had this issue with God of War, where I felt like there was just too much side stuff. And I know it's optional, but my goblin brain says you need to go over there.
Yeah, mine does too.
You need to go there and look at that stuff, even if
one of those yellow barriers, it's like you can go this way. I'm like, well, I'm going to go.
I've got to go there. I simply must.
Yeah.
And I'll even smash my head against the wall for 20 minutes trying to solve a puzzle that I can't yet. Yeah. because I feel like I need to.
Yeah.
And it's entirely on me and how I play games. But I do find that it means that in like immersion wise, Cal is wandering off for like 8 hours to pick up seeds.
Yeah.
And then he's coming back and continuing his mission.
Yeah.
So to get to the point where you can take part in that satisfying loop, you first have to just exhaustively explore this huge area.
The thing is, you don't have to.
No, you don't.
But
I have to.
Yeah.
And I found that a bit overwhelming. And like every time I get to a new bit of Kobo, before you start going in specific directions in Kobo for story reasons when doors unlock.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's more.
So much.
There's so much more. But fortunately, I feel like the other planets,
They're a lot smaller than
they're a lot
Kobo's.
smaller. There are moments in the story where the set pieces are like incredible with like sort of, I think they outstrip a lot of the stuff that Uncharted was ever able to do in terms of like ridiculous, absurd, I can't believe this is happening and I'm actually playing through it. This is amazing.
Well, even right at the beginning of the game, it feels a bit like that. Like the set pieces that open the game feel very much like, wow, this is pretty dope that we're having this moment.
But it still peppers those in throughout.
Yeah.
And I feel like the level design of some of the planets that you visit that are a bit more linear in terms of they're not huge open world ones, I think they flow a lot better.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't like being dumped into a huge open area with a billion different directions to go in. I much prefer to be not funneled, but like go to a place where let's say a corridor branches and I can go left or right, and left takes me on a little offshoot with some optional stuff, and right is the way I'm meant to go. I prefer that personally.
Yeah. Have you turned on the navigation assist?
No.
So there's a thing in the menu, which it wasn't in the first game, which I really appreciate, in that if you turn that on your map, there's a little thing that says, if you go this way, you're going towards the end where you have to go.
See, that would be...
It's very useful.
That would be useful,
and I would recommend
I've done that
turning
a couple of times
on.
where I've thought, oh God, which way is the optional way? And then I've gone the story way and I haven't been able to get back to and the optional way is literally just, there's an item 3 feet away. And I didn't know because I wasn't sure which one was which.
But I'd recommend turning that on. But we obviously have to talk about the fact that this game released and maybe, it's already better now, a few days past, but it released and it ran like ass.
Yes.
If you played it in performance mode, the screen tearing was insane.
It does not run at 60.
It doesn't run at 60. The screen tearing's terrible. If you play it in quality mode, it runs pretty much at 30 FPS, unless you do certain abilities or the certain like movements or combat moments that you do where it runs like ass and it does not work.
Kobo in particular, I found like the open world
buggy.
when you're there's one bit in Kobo where you're, I think it's on the approach to the settlement, and no matter where you look, if you go up a little higher, like it just chugs, like it really slows down, and it runs a lot better in indoor sections.
Yes.
But there's still load times.
There's popping in quite a lot.
There's pop-in. And outside of the performance issues, I also found it to be a bit buggy. Like I've had the map refuse to open. I've gotten stuck in the environment and sort of gone into like a falling animation and not been able to move.
My spammel got stuck in a rock and I was stuck on the spammel.
That happened to me. And also I went through the floor on a spammel. I've gone through the floor in a couple of places. There's one area of the map where there is just a bit of floor where no matter which angle I approached it from, you will fall through it.
Good.
There's like no collision. You
Love
just
that.
go right through the floor.
I've had trophies pop when I haven't even done it.
Really?
Not like
I want
major,
those.
not like major things,
I
but
want
it'll be
those.
like the side bits where I'll be like, "You did this thing," and I'm like, "No, I didn't."
I have
Thanks though.
brute forced my way into solutions of puzzles a couple of times.
Good.
Like Skyrim'd my way up the side of cliff faces I'm absolutely not meant to be up yet, and like confused the game. It's not perfect, but this is one of the very rare examples for me personally where my enjoyment of a game far outstrips the
feel the
issues I'm
same.
having with it.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes. This game should not have been released running the way it did and the way it continues to run.
Especially
I
on
think
PC.
on PC it's really bad.
Yeah.
We were both playing on PS5.
Yes.
I assume, yeah. But the rest of the game is so strong
Yeah.
that I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. I just hope there's not
I'm
another
really
Kobo
glad it's good.
size planet. I'm
Yeah,
really
me-
scared I'm
yeah,
going to
me
run
too,
into another
actually.
Kobo
Because
planet.
otherwise, I don't think I'll ever finish the game.
Yeah, I'm 60% through with the story apparently, but I've been exhaustively exploring every
See,
single map.
I'm nowhere near that. I've been faffing big time.
I've got a moustache, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I've got a moustache. I've got this sort of like slicked back hair, but it's
Yeah.
not the slicked back hair. It's a different one.
Okay.
I think he looks really cool. I think he looks like a World War II pilot.
Yeah.
Like British pilot.
I was walking around with a man bun and a big beard for a while. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, he's been exploring the universe.
Uh-huh.
Like he's not been taking care of himself. So he's looking unkempt. And then I found the mullet and I was like, mullet!
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. Mullet and mustache. So
What stance are you using for like lightsaber?
I've got the dual stance
Uh-huh.
and the one with the gun.
Okay, the one with the gun is my favorite. I think it's amazing.
I think it's a really good
it's
stance.
so cool. Not only do you get to shoot your gun from a distance, but some of the like executions that you can do, he just like sweeps the leg and then shoots them in the face.
Yeah.
I think that's great. That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
However, the customization of the lightsaber, again, I think is kind of pointless. I like that you can customize the blade.
Yeah.
You can see that, but customizing any other part of it, I just never see it.
Well, mine's pink, so I can see it all the
Oh,
time.
right, okay, I
It
mean,
hangs,
fair
off, it,
enough.
hangs off his belt and it looks great.
And it's bright pink.
And it's bright pink.
However, for me, I like that it's an option. I'd rather it be in there than not be there. And I don't know how else they could solve this, but I do think it's crazy that there's so much customization options for a lightsaber that you can't really see the details of.
I also, just before we wrap this up, I love that the droids are in this, and I love listening to what the droids have to say, and they chat absolute nonsense,
they
and I'm
do.
obsessed. I picked one up with my force powers, and it said, "Oh my god, I'm flying!" and I threw it off, and it said,
Yeah.
"Wah!" and I was like, "Brilliant, 10 out of 10."
Comedy in this game's great.
It's really good.
It's just a very good
They
game.
nail the Star Wars droid level of like comedy just straight up. Some of the things they say is hilarious. I'm like sat waiting off the edge of a cliff,
Yeah, just to
listening
hear
to
these
what they're saying.
droids.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've talked for far too long. Let's throw it back to us.
Yes, let's. It's time for question 2 now, and I've got it. It's from Michael Milan. Greetings to you, Bap. My girlfriends and I recently became engaged.
I hope you're married.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
As we are both major geeks, we're thinking of ways to incorporate our various fandoms, including video games, into the wedding, with nods to to favourites of ours like Zelda and Horizon. If you're planning a wedding, be it yours or someone else's, how would you incorporate video game fandom into the event?
So this is
you,
what I
Michael
meant,
Milan.
right?
Yeah.
By how, like, even if we are doing stuff that is related to news a lot more now with questions, it's not always going to be like, what do you think about the state of the industry or the release of Little Devil Inside? You know, sometimes it will
As
be
if
like,
that's ever coming.
yeah,
Come
right.
on.
But, you know, there might be a news story one week about like, such and such a celebrity did this thing at their wedding, this video gamey thing, or maybe not even a celebrity, just here's a write-up about some geek's wedding.
Some
geek.
goddamn
to
nerd's
quote,
wedding.
To quote Michael Milan,
Yeah.
we are
I
both
don't know.
major
It just
geeks.
feels way more pointed. If you
Yeah.
just-
Some
Some
geek.
geek's wedding.
Michael, open parentheses, who is a geek?
Yeah.
This
So
geek.
that kind of stuff could be in the news, and you can still ask us things like, how would you incorporate gaming into your wedding? So it's not
Yeah.
always necessarily going to be
Ask whatever you want, but we're going to skew towards news. So
Industry
please ask
questions.
news things.
Yeah, yeah. I personally, for my wedding, we kind of chose not to necessarily incorporate too much stuff that we came up with all these things that we liked, and we were like, do we incorporate this or not? And in the end, we just kind of went for more traditional stuff, and we thought like it might kind of date it a bit. Like no matter what you choose, in like 30 years time, that game that we chose on that day will be like that game that we've kind of forgotten about.
I
Sort of
did
thing.
think it was weird that the priest was dressed as Spyro, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
going to say anything.
I mean, Spyro's timeless though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
come
he
on.
is. I was going to say there were a lot of geeks at your wedding.
Yeah,
to
there
be
were.
fair.
It was a bit of a geek
Well,
wedding.
that was the other thing, actually. There were a lot of non-geeks at the wedding. And I
Yeah.
think like we probably thought like some of the people there would not necessarily understand or appreciate too many references to pop culture and stuff.
You did do you did do like a choreographed dance to the entire Jeremy Saul Oblivion soundtrack.
Well, again,
and that went on.
It
for
did go on
ages.
for a long
everyone can
time.
appreciate the Jeremy Soule soundtrack, even old ladies. So don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Peter's grandma did yell, "I fought mud crabs more fierce." than
She
you."
did, yeah.
Yeah,
You'll make
that's
a fine
true.
rug, cat. Is what they shout at you when you're a Khajiit.
Oh, that's racist.
Yeah, it is actually racist. But on the other hand, I know people who have done that sort of thing at their wedding, and hey, more power to them. I can totally see the appeal the other way. So I think I can say this publicly because I'm sure it was posted on Twitter. Scott Tailford, who we used to work for,
Yep.
with, not for, work with.
Yes.
I don't think it wasn't gaming related, although he is a big video game.
He's a geek.
Geek.
That's another geek right there.
He, on the back of their cake, so on the front, I think it was a kind of traditional Was it half and half, or maybe it was the whole cake? Anyway, I don't know.
sure.
It may have been around the front. It may have been white, and then around the back they had a design because some people do that half and half, or it might have been the whole cake. But you had like a tiered like Lord of the Rings thing. What's that like castle called? That's like kind of tall and like layered.
Ministerith?
Don't know.
You're asking the wrong geeks.
But like,
yes, different type of geek.
Yeah, but what I'm sure was a very expensive geeky cake. It looked really cool, and he posted photos of it on social media. I've got some other ideas here. You could have like arcade cabinets at the reception that people can play. We had like some lawn games, even though it was a bit damp, and no one actually played them in the end. But that
Michael Johnson did still go and play on the children's play area and injure himself.
There was a children's play area at the place.
If there was video games, maybe he wouldn't have injured himself. He'd
Exactly.
have had something to
I still
distract
think he would have
himself
injured
with.
himself.
Yeah, somehow.
It's true.
You could do something that a lot of people do as a way of incorporating something that you like without kind of it getting in the way of, if you are going for something a bit more traditional, is do table names based on stuff.
Hey, I was going to say that.
Oh, well, I've said it already. So I think someone I know did football teams because they were like really into football, and I think their fiance was like, I don't really want to do a football thing at our wedding.
Yeah.
So the compromise was, well, we'll just call each table after like a player or a stadium or something like that.
My friend did locations that were like meaningful in their relationship.
Yeah.
So like the place they
Things like
met,
that.
where they both grew up, that kind of thing. And then everyone who was sat at a table was like, what part of their lives?
Yeah.
It's just quite
That's
cute.
lovely.
Yeah, and you can like write it on the table.
It's thoughtful though, which is like that's loads of effort, isn't it?
Not for geeks.
Can we just put a football stadium on it.
Yeah. But if you wanted to go the whole hog, you could literally have like the reception venue or even the ceremony venue at like an arcade or something. If you just want to go mad, I bet there are reception packages at certain like big arcades. I'm not saying
Or
every
even
arcade
small
will
arcades,
do it.
you just go chat to the guy and say, how
Yeah.
much to rent out the place for an
Yeah.
hour?
Can I
Well,
get married
exactly,
here,
yeah.
please?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the gal. Or the other.
Yeah. I also said table names. That's quite an easy way to kind of incorporate characters or places. Because if you call a table Hyrule,
Yeah.
some geeks are going to get it,
Yeah.
but those non-geeks are going to be like, what a lovely word.
Yeah.
And then go and sit at their table which says Hyrule on it.
Cyrodiil.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. I wonder what that means. We'll ask them about it later.
Doom.
Yeah. Hell. Yeah, and if they ask you about it later, you won't have time to answer because you're at your wedding. So then they'll just never know.
Yeah.
So it's little
Sort
sneaky
of need to know
sneaks.
basis.
Yeah, exactly. Also, there's this woman on TikTok who does like kind of like, I don't know if it's called a wedding march or like, the song that the bride comes down the aisle to. How sometimes it's like a traditional kind of song. Well, she kind of takes like requests and makes them into songs you can walk down the aisle to. So there's things like ABBA and like Here Comes the Sun, for example. And then there's like other things where she'll take like the Star Wars soundtrack or the Star Wars intro and make that lovely on the piano. That it's kind of like subtle enough that like you can be like, is that
That's a Star Wars.
Star Wars?
That's bloody Star Wars.
And it is, but they won't know that. And there's a different guy on TikTok who does a thing that's like, what if your clients are big fans of a certain game or like a certain movie, and he mixes like he's like a DJ, and he mixes like the Mandalorian theme tune into like music with beats. So it's like you can just hear it, and you're like, everyone's like kind of bobbing around and like dancing to it. But then like the geeks know
The geese will know.
that it's
Yeah.
from like Mandalorian and
Yeah,
stuff.
music's
So
a good idea, actually.
yeah.
You wouldn't even have to mix it either. Like some nice orchestral, like Final Fantasy music, or
Legend of Zelda theme.
Mm-hmm.
or Jeremy Soule.
Lovely.
You could come down the aisle to that.
You could go down it to Metal Hellsinger if you wanted to.
Yeah,
You could.
First dance to the Mario theme.
Yeah.
She's dancing. She's
She's
miming
singing
Mario.
Mario
Imagine
theme and
I'm
dancing.
holding my wife
Yeah.
and we're dancing.
Who's your
Your
wife in this
wife.
instance? Which one of your wives is it?
Don't know. Whoever says yes first.
Okay.
Any ideas?
Yeah, don't worry. Michael, you geek.
You geek.
You geek?
Don't worry, I'm going to save your
Major
wedding.
geek.
Yeah.
Major geek, sorry.
Major
Delete
geek.
it. So I'm going to save your wedding, Michael. Option one, you throw a Pokeball at your spouse, and a spouse to be, sorry, and maybe it has a ring in it. That's one That's one option.
Well, that'd be good for the proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a Pokeball.
Just as hard.
I
Honestly,
choose you.
yeah.
as hard
Oh,
as you can. You really need to like the impact.
If they're not bruised, you didn't do it hard enough.
You don't love them enough. Like the impact is directly correlated to how much you care about them. So you're really going to want to throw this thing as hard as you can. And then if you miss, then you're going to tough luck. You can't marry them. That's it. You've missed your opportunity. They run away into the woods and then you never see them again.
Into the tall grass. They're
So
gone.
that's one option. Another option: build a big set where there's a giant controller with buttons you can press, and when the time comes, you have to press X to say "I do." There's another option.
To pay respects.
Well, you do that in the graveyard first,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you come in to the church, and there's a big controller, and you press X, and it say "I do."
But don't press square for doubt.
No, and don't take too long because the timer will run down, and it will say "Spouse to be will remember this."
Yeah.
and that's it. You
Or if
buggered
you
it.
fail the QTE, your spouse just says, "I'm going to die,"
and then the whole church explodes.
Yeah.
Option 3, and this is not necessarily one I would recommend, but it will start you on a life-changing journey, is
Right.
at the end of the service, Sephiroth crashes through the stained glass window
no.
and impales your wedding friend on a big sword, and you have to carry their body to a nearby lake and let them slowly disappear beneath the surface, swearing revenge on Sephiroth and vowing to save the planet.
Is that a Final Fantasy VII spoiler?
It's not a spoiler. It's been out for 30 years.
Yeah, but okay, but not everyone's played it. I already know what happens. You didn't have to tell me exactly how.
What?
Well, I already know I know what you're talking about now.
What?
"Oh no."
I just asked you if it was a spoiler from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And it is.
It's what happens in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
again
but I didn't know that.
7.
Well,
That's before I was
didn't know that
born.
You didn't know that.
To be fair, I thought there's no way Ashton Matthews doesn't know this very, very famous
No.
moment from one of the most famous games of all time that is over 20 years old.
I ignore things if I haven't played them because maybe I'll play it eventually.
Well, you
I
will
know the
play it
game
eventually.
is still coming out now.
Well, all I'm saying is maybe don't go to Michael's wedding then. Because this could happen.
It could.
Are you
Yeah.
genuinely cross?
Not much, I'm fine.
Good, because I want to make sure. Because Ciaran also expressed concerns that you didn't know this spoiler. Because he's had exactly the same
don't
issue.
know
Wait,
things,
this
all right?
specific. So this has happened before.
Yeah.
Quite recently.
So you did already know it just now when
Yeah,
Ben
she was
said
just
it.
trying to make me feel bad.
I didn't know how it happened.
Oh right. Okay.
I've tried
Ciaran
to ignore
expressed
it.
concern.
Yeah. We were walking back from
He
work
asked me
once
a
and Ciaran said, did you know that Ashton doesn't know what happens in Final Fantasy VII? And I was like, what? And like, yeah, like I said, like this very famous moment from this very famous game. And she reacted like she'd be like someone had kicked her dog or something.
I didn't know.
Well, either way, that's taken the wind out of my sails now, Ashton. So thank you for that.
Yeah, cool.
But Michael,
Sephiroth can kill your wedding friend. That's fine.
Michael, I hope those options help. And Ashton, play Final Fantasy VII.
I don't want to play the old version because it's too long. I watched Ben play it and it went on for months.
You didn't watch that bit?
No, he kept telling me to leave the room when something was happening.
Honestly, in the remake, there's a chance that bit may not even.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might change
Don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Look.
But that does
some
happen.
People don't know things sometimes. That's
In the
okay.
very old game. Anyway, Michael, best of luck, and I hope you're married.
Major geek.
Flipping geek. It's time to move on to something a bit strange.
Yeah.
Even stranger than Ashton not knowing about that thing that I don't even want to call it a spoiler. It's the thing that happens in that game. It's weird news.
Weird news.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. Remember, if you want to submit some weird video game news to us, you can do on the relevant post that goes up on Twitter and Facebook on a Tuesday. However, if you want to guarantee a shout out at this moment in the podcast, go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump, support us as here, and become a what, Ashton?
A podcast producer, just like
Just like Nathan
and GY Goliath
And Nexus Polaris.
and Duncan Wilson
and Blake Thomas
And Ellie Nicholas.
and Nicole Hansen
and Melody Elbonet.
And Katie Garrett.
and Gabrielle Philippink.
Thank you,
podcast
podcast
producers.
producers.
I'd like to say that I've just realised this week that I've segregated the gang by gender.
Yeah, you have actually, haven't you?
By assumed
Unintentional,
gender.
Yeah,
unassumed
assumed
gender.
gender,
That's
yeah.
true. But that's just because it's in like what's it called?
It's in two
a table.
columns.
And that's just how it goes on Patreon. And I didn't think about that until just now.
Yeah.
You're going to jumble them?
Are they not always in the same order anyway?
I
Yeah.
feel like I say Katie Garrett
It's not
/
the first
Jared's
time.
name every single
Yeah, I
week.
think I always say the same
I can mix
names.
it up.
Well, I don't
Keep
know
people
how
on their toes.
I might freak out. I
I want to keep the ones I have because I don't have to say Katie Garrett or Jared or Melody L Bonnet. No, it's not that one. There's another one that I don't know.
I don't know, Chief.
No, it's mainly Katie Garrett / Jared.
Yeah.
We've never. She's definitely. She must have corrected us at some point. I just assume it's Garrett because I don't believe that that's the spelling of a Jared.
I check every week to make sure.
And Katie's not in there.
see
And
if she
she's,
said.
she's never corrected.
Katie,
Katie, please.
Katie.
in the next podcast post that goes out on Monday, can you please tell us, is it a hard G?
Maybe she doesn't.
Is it
watch
GIF
the-
or GIF?
Listen to the podcast. Some people don't.
Anyway, thank you, podcast producers. We love you. It would be nice to get some. Actually, I kind of don't want to know. I like the mystery.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd be kind of sad if we ever found
I'm
out.
most surprised by Ashton's insistence that it is Bonnet and not Bonnet.
Yeah,
Bonnet,
it's
it
two
looks
Ts.
French.
It is, yeah. But Bonnet would be
Just ET.
E.T.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, no one's ever corrected me
No,
either.
you're right.
So I like it. I think it sounds good. Melody El Bonnet. I think that sounds cool.
And if it's Bonnet, it
Bonnet.
doesn't sound cool.
Not as cool.
Change your
Consider
name.
change. Thank you so much for your
Thank you,
support.
podcast
Thank you,
producers.
podcast producers.
That's not what you pay for to be just.
Roasted.
Critiqued like that.
yeah.
Hey, Peter, have
Got
you
some
picked out
weird
some
news?
weird news for us?
Yeah, I've got some weird news that was submitted to us by via Twitter by Robert Rochelle at @RRRAEW.
So is that
Triple.
9 R's and
Yeah, @RRR. Yeah, 9 R's AEW.
okay, brilliant.
It's from Push Square.
We know that.
Random.
Didn't realize they said random.
It's all of them.
Well, I know it's all
of
the same company, but I thought it was
all
only
those
Nintendo
guys.
who said it. PS5 controller now being used to conceive kids.
Brilliant. About time.
So you suggested doing it for weddings.
Bloody geeks.
A big
Yeah.
controller.
Geeks.
Now you can do it to have actual major geek
You got
children.
to tap
Yeah, but
X
if they-
to make a baby.
If the major geeks have children, there'll be more geeks.
Yeah, we don't want that.
We can't have
No
that.
thanks.
And then the little subheading: talk about a back of the box quote.
What?
Don't see the relevance of that. This is by Kale Adam. Push Square. So, a quote: sperm injecting robot. End quote.
Good.
Has
I'm glad you
successfully.
said that loud for
Yeah.
everyone to hear.
It's hyperlinked as well. I don't know where that's going to take me.
Does it have a name,
Okay.
like a human name?
Not
It's
the,
called Sir,
I
the
know.
sperm injecting robot.
Sir.
Sir.
Sir, may I... No. Finish it.
The hyperlink just goes to a website about like IVF
Sperm.
and stuff. But
Oh, okay. It's not going to tell us, but I want to know about the robot.
a sperm injecting robot, Sir,
Sir.
has successfully fertilized human eggs with the operator using a PS5 controller to steer a small mechanized needle during in vitro fertilization IVF procedures. 2 healthy babies have thus far been born, making them the first human beings in history to have been born after fertilization through use of automated technology.
Wow.
Developed by Spanish startup Overture
Spermish.
Spermish startup Overture Life.
Oh,
The feat was achieved when one of
Fetus. Sorry, I'll stop.
the fetus was achieved when one of the engineers with no real experience in fertility medicine, it says. What? And that's a quote.
He's just tinkering in his shed.
Yeah. One of the engineers with no real experience in fertility medicine used a Sony PlayStation 5 controller to position a robotic needle. Eyeing a human egg through a camera, it then moved forward on its own, penetrating the egg and dropping off a single sperm cell. Altogether, the robot was used to fertilize more than a dozen eggs. It's an unlikely feather in PlayStation's cap, says Push Square, but one we think Sony marketing and PR should capitalize on.
no.
All jokes aside, IVF is an expensive, harrowing, and time-consuming endeavor, and anything that makes that process easier is pretty great in our reckoning.
Absolutely.
Practice calling PlayStation Daddy in the comment section below.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, Push Square.
What a call
for
to
that.
act. That might be the worst call to action they've ever
Yeah,
done.
that is. It's pretty worse than most, that's for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
News from Karen J. Cute on Twitter by Hope Bellingham at Games Radar. The best part of Star Wars Jedi Survivor is all the weird little guys in it, especially Turgle and Scuba. Yes. Respawn has not disappointed with its weird little guys.
Are you familiar with the weird little guys?
I've seen the frog-faced man.
Turgle.
Yeah.
He's good. When he runs, spectacular.
Yeah. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is full of weird little guys, and they're one of the best things about the sequel. The day has finally come for Star Wars Jedi Survivor to release, and now that fans are getting reacquainted with Cal Kestis and BD1, it's also time for them to meet a new host of other characters, many of which are just a bunch of weird little guys. Although pretty mild in terms of spoilers, we will be talking some. I'm going to cut any spoilers out.
Okay, good.
Star Wars fans are probably no strangers to weird little guys, as fans have affectionately named them. Over the years, we've seen the likes of Babu Frick, Watto, Yoda, plus many more. And the good news is, developer Respawn made sure there are plenty in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. One of the little guys that's been getting a lot of attention is Turgle, a frog-like individual with whom Cal frequently interacts. Love him or hate him, it's clear Turgle has made an impression on Star Wars Jedi Survivor fans. And there's a couple of tweets. One says, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is Game of the Year just because of Turgle. One of my favourite things about Star Wars is what we like to call the weird little guy effect. I'm pleased to report Jedi Survivor has some of the best weird little guys ever. This is Scuba Steve, a small crustacean alien that talks like a dwarf from Lord of the Rings.
What, just Scottish?
Yeah.
Right.
He's a bit much.
Yeah, he is a lot. And then someone else says, in Jedi Survivor, petable boglings are plentiful on the planet, and they just love weird little guys.
Yeah.
So
there are some phenomenal
There are some real weird little guys. Yeah. So that's why people really like Jedi Survivor. Because
to be fair, that's the only reason I like
the weird little guys. Just so many of them.
Yeah, 100%.
So
my weird news, thank you, Ashton.
That's okay.
Thank you, Ashton.
My weird news comes from Ash Holly at Shiny Ash on Twitter. Thank you, Ash. And this weird news comes from Forbes and Paul Tarsi. And the title is 9 million people have watched the full Super Mario Bros. Movie illegally posted on Twitter.
I saw this tweet.
Right.
But you didn't watch it, did you? Hello?
I clicked through it to see if it was actually the Mario movie. So I probably am one of those 9 million.
So you broke the law. She's here.
We got him.
Officers.
The guy then posted another film afterwards, I think. He was like, see, you all enjoyed Mario. Anyway, here's Morbius or whatever it was.
If you were wondering what getting rid of the vast majority of Twitter staff, including moderators, might do to the site, here's one bit of anarchy for you. After attempting something similar a few days ago, the account Vids That Go Hard, with 1.1 million followers, has posted the entirety of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, yes, the one that's still in theaters and just crossed $1 billion at the box office, illegally to Twitter. Update, it appears Twitter finally woke up and deleted the video. But the Vids account does not seem to have been punished in any capacity. Great.
And not before 9 million people had watched it.
No. The movie is indeed the full length, uploaded in 2 parts. I didn't realise you could post videos.
I think if you've got Twitter Blue,
yeah,
you can.
they're unlimited
Wow.
length now.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
The aspect ratio is a bit messed up, but the overall quality is pretty high. This is possible not only because Twitter mods appear to be asleep at the wheel at the time of this writing, this has been up for 7 hours, but because a Twitter Blue subscription now allows you to upload hour-long videos in high quality, which makes the piracy shown here much, much easier. The Super Mario Bros. Movie rip posted here has racked up 9 million views in those 7 hours it's been online, and racking up almost 200,000 new views every few minutes. Obviously, I don't think this is exactly hurting the box office of the film, which is one of the highest grossing movies of the year, and double any other video game movie's revenue already, but it's more about the weirdness that Twitter has become when it's understaffed and offering Blue subscribers tools without really thinking them through. It goes on. But there we are.
And there's no way that 9 million people have sat and watched the entire movie. Like, a lot of that will just be people scrolling or seeing that it's happened.
Auto-playing.
Yeah, and they'll be like, oh, okay, look. Oh, it really is the whole thing. Okay, and then moving on. But still, it's not good.
It's nuts. And I would like to think that considering how litigious Nintendo are and can be, Elon Musk's Twitter will be slapped with a hefty fine.
You'd hope so.
Punishment. So.
Elon Musk has to give him 30% of his income for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that seems appropriate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I like that. Well, there we are. That's weird news. It's time to move on to the big discussion. Big discussion time for the big video game discussion that this week comes courtesy of Stephen Skodes. Thank you, Stephen. Hi, Bap. Redfall has been released and its reception hasn't been stellar to say the least. I was watching a video from IGN yesterday and they were talking about how Xbox can't afford a failure for an Xbox exclusive. Do you agree with that statement? What are your thoughts of what can be determined as a success or failure for a console exclusive game? Have a great day.
Thanks, Stephen.
So yesterday I posted a community post asking what people thought about Redfall before we got this question, and just wanted to just gauge things. And I posted it on YouTube, so I knew that the vibes were going to be off.
Yeah. Yes,
because if there's one thing I
posts
can
on
confirm
YouTube are bad.
about YouTube, the vibes are always off. But I got a couple things that I thought were kind of people talking about their opinions of Microsoft, because my opinion is that they can afford it monetarily, but their reputation isn't necessarily doing its best
That's
at the
exactly
moment.
what I've written. Yeah, finance versus
me
reputation.
Yeah. So someone said Game Pass is ruining all of their exclusives. The quality has fallen off a cliff. There was a bit of discussion about whether it was Microsoft's fault because they're not technically the publisher or the developer. It's Bethesda and Arcane. And someone said, right, it's just a coincidence. Every time they take control of a franchise or buy a developer, they turn them to plops. And someone said that they blamed Microsoft's hands-off approach. Managing the devs isn't working. It's one of the reasons all their games and studios are broken. Sony make their studios check in and send producers out to check milestones for whatever game they're working on. This is 100% Microsoft's problem, not the dev. They can't manage their way out of a wet paper bag. Uncle Phil has some good ideas, but he's sucking at managing them. So there was a general vibe on the YouTube community post that it's very much Microsoft's fault that this is happening with Redfall. But yeah, that's what I just...
That is very, very in keeping with the general sentiment of the reaction in the past few days. What did Redfall get on Metacritic again?
64, I think.
See, that's just unacceptable for a big exclusive, isn't it? And regardless of whether you play on Xbox or not, that's hugely disappointing. And we obviously already talked about it earlier in Review Corner, but there is clearly a bigger issue here that will have more of a ripple effect. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I mean, I agree that financially they can afford it probably to just die on its arse if that's what it does. But reputationally, if that's a word, that's where the problems arise. The fact that they've got that Game Pass exists means that they must factor in, at least to a certain extent, that they're not... These games that they're putting onto Game Pass aren't there to make huge amounts of money in sales, or at least they're hoping that it will perhaps just encourage more and more people to go to Game Pass. So it'll be interesting to see how, even with exclusives, or particularly with exclusives, how that actually factors into their kind of financial plans. Do they think we've got to hope that people buy this and that, it flies off the shelves? Or are they thinking, we just want to keep bolstering Game Pass, make it more worthwhile, more and more people will sign up for it, and maybe we can even increase the price of Game Pass eventually if we have some good exclusives on there. I don't know. It's difficult unless you're literally talking to Uncle Phil and asking him, how does this factor in? But ultimately, I think even though it's weird, financially they can afford it, and with the reputation, it is damaging. But I think that commercial success trumps critical success when you're running a business. So if you have there've been various games over the past few years that have perhaps been completely slammed for their quality, but thanks partly to things like pre-orders and also people who just maybe want to focus on one particular game, they've done very well regardless. You look at something like Hogwarts Legacy seems to have probably sold reasonably well in its first couple of weeks. Cyberpunk, various games by Activision Blizzard, which perhaps could one day be under Microsoft if things change. Activision doesn't have a great reputation, and there's a lot of negative discourse around there, but their games continue to do well. So I don't know. It's funny, the way these things go. It's like Microsoft can afford for this to not sell well, but actually, ultimately, when you're running a business, that's the one thing that you do want to do well. It doesn't matter if all the critics are saying this is bad, if you're making money from it. So it's tricky for them, and I'll be very interested to see how they react to this. There are those showcases coming up, and we were talking in the office the other day about like, are they going to like go for the nuclear option and start talking about Elder Scrolls or something, just to try and like drum up a bit more interest again in Microsoft and a bit more faith in their product? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens.
I do think that apart from Game Pass, they are in some ways losing the console war between the new Xboxes and the PlayStation 5, because PlayStation 5 launches, admittedly, they have had bugs, but they have been objectively better games. For example, God of War and Horizon Forbidden West. Yeah, okay, Horizon did have bugs when it released, but nowhere near as bad as what they've had with Redfall. And also, it had a much better reception. It was very much up there with the top kind of dogs of the year. So I do think, if we're going by like what's recently come out for both of these consoles, that on paper, PlayStation are winning this console generation in terms of quality of their games. And I think that if Starfield comes out and is bad and does not live up to the expectations that they have set for themselves, that it will be not the final nail in the coffin, but another nail in the coffin of this generation. Because Starfield right now is the only thing that they've got on the horizon that people are excited about, that can, I believe, make or break the reputation of them at this moment. I think that like Redfall came out, it wasn't a huge release. It was only recently announced. Well, it wasn't only recently announced, but we recently got a lot of stuff about it in more recent kind of drops. But Starfield, I feel like is what they're banking on this year. Like it's the only thing that they've kind of like pushed and pushed and pushed because of how ginormous this game is going to be. And I do think that if Starfield flops, I think it's going to be a real kick in the teeth for Xbox and for Xbox players and Bethesda as well. Because there's just nothing about Xbox at the moment that is appealing to the vast majority of players. If you've got a PlayStation 5, I can't see many people going, I'm going to buy an Xbox and play Xbox exclusives, because there's just not enough. Apart from Game Pass, there's nothing there.
Game Pass is just like essentially propping them up at this point.
Yeah.
Not financially. They're not actually in trouble here, but yeah, in terms of appeal and reputation.
Exactly. I agree. And I do think it's like, I don't think endemic is the right word, but like maybe an epidemic with games at the moment that come out half-baked and don't work. However, these games are coming from individual studios. Like, okay, Jedi Survivor is buggy as, but is coming from EA, so we can be annoyed at EA and Respawn. But when you've got something like Microsoft that is so encompassing of so many things, and so many of what their projects are coming out and being bad, if that was one studio doing that they'd have gone. They'd have lost every reputation. No one would want to buy their games anymore. But because they're like this overarching big dog, this like cloud, this like grey cloud that's over everyone, they still keep getting away with these games coming out being bad. And we don't know what the reason is, if it's them mismanaging, if it's them pushing out to release, or if it's the devs themselves just not, producing good games. But I find it hard to put the blame on Arcane, given what they've released in the past. So
it's a surprise.
Yeah. I just think that they need Starfield to be good, or they might have a very plops year.
Yeah.
Again.
We're in sort of uncharted territory at the moment, because on any other platform, if a first-party game came out and it reviewed as poorly as Redfall did, that series would be dead, that studio would be in jeopardy, it wouldn't sell many copies, and that would be a huge disaster for the platform holder. However, because it's going on Game Pass and they're not trying to sell it, it's a completely different kettle of fish here. And like you guys have said, they can financially afford to take this hit, no problem whatsoever. Like this, just shrug it off and keep going. But I don't know how this is going to affect like people's interest in subscribing to Game Pass, because people subscribe to Game Pass for more than just exclusives. There's lots of great third-party titles on there, and there's stuff added every single month. Like
some of the indie stuff that they put out on Game Pass is objectively better than their like first-party big releases. Like Ravenlock, for example, comes out today at time of recording, and is objectively so much more interesting looking than Redfall, and has got like none of the hype from Xbox. Obviously, it's going on other consoles as well, so they haven't advertised it as much. But you look at something like that, and it's like, why is this not being talked about more when it looks good? And given it's an indie studio, will probably run better because they have to be better.
Yeah. The value proposition offered by Game Pass is unbelievable, and that's always going to attract people and not necessarily repel anyone. But it is a reputation thing, really, at this point, as you guys have said. Like, if you like Halo Infinite didn't have staying power. I really enjoyed it, and a lot of people did. It was one of my games of the year for that year, but it wasn't what people were hoping for. Neither was Halo. Was there a Halo 5 before then? I can't remember if that was the third part of their trilogy. Was it Halo 4 and then into that? I can't remember.
No, yeah, I think 5 then Infinite.
Yeah, so there was 4, 5 and Infinite developed by 343, I want to say.
I'll find out. But yeah.
And that's not quite hit as people wanted. Gears 4 and 5 developed by the Coalition after Epic Games left. That's not hit the way that people necessarily wanted it to. They're still really good games and really enjoyable, and they've got their audience, but it doesn't feel like these exclusives are held in the same prestige that they used to be.
Yeah, it was Halo 5 Guardians and then Halo.
Right, okay. I thought it was, but I got confused with Gears of War then. I was a bit worried about mislabeling them. But yeah, there's been like Hi-Fi Rush sort of came out of nowhere, and that's going to be the thing that everyone's going to hold up and say, look, you can publish great exclusives. It does happen. These games do exist, and Game Pass will always be attractive because it's such good value. However, when you're releasing these games one after another and they're either not very good, don't live up to the hype, or they're just broken, people are going to start asking questions and people are going to lose faith, and that's no good. You're not going to want that.
Do you think that because a lot of these studios are owned by Microsoft and because Game Pass is there, do you think that there's this kind of culture of having a safety net of the game doesn't have to sell well, it's going on Game Pass, so if we release it, we can just fix it later because we don't necessarily need it to sell well because people will download it and play it on Game Pass? Do you think that they're using this platform that they've got as a bit of a safety net? Because that's kind of what it feels a little bit like.
The safety net's there. That's undeniable. But I don't think anyone involved in any of these games wants to release. Like,
no, I don't think they want
to.
Arcane
wanted Redfall to come out the way it did because, Game Pass would catch it as such.
I would think it more of as like the big dog in charge, the CEO, or like the person who's calling all the shots that's disconnected from the actual game itself. I would never think that your average developer would be like, it's fine to go out like that.
Yeah.
But I think that like...
No, that like occurred to me. I did wonder to what extent, so we've seen other games in the lead up to release, even like weeks before release, suddenly put out a statement saying, okay, we're actually going to push this back by a few months. Really sorry. We want to make sure it's like perfect. And maybe there is an element of like the Game Pass safety net that might stop them from doing that at least. So yeah, they might not be like super happy with how it is, but they might think, we probably don't really have to push it because it's going on Game Pass anyway, sort of thing. Possibly. It might factor into their decision-making process.
It's this uncharted territory. We find that like Game Pass is the mystery factor here in terms of decision-making, in terms of how this is all going to shake out in the end when the dust settles. But regardless, you've got a big tentpole exclusive release from a studio people love that scored in the 60s on Metacritic and barely runs, and people are clowning on it and joking about it on social media. It's a really bad look. And maybe this doesn't extend beyond the core gaming audience that we talk about quite often. Like the vast majority of people may not ever know or ever care or even know what Redfall is, and it doesn't affect their purchasing decisions in the slightest. But Xbox are very rapidly entering territory where their exclusive first-party games that go on Game Pass are not viewed as tentpole releases that are must-play, must-subscribe, must-own console for video games. They're viewed as sort of like a throwaway, give it a go over the weekend kind of thing. And if you don't like it, play it for a couple of hours and turn it off, and that's it. Like, that's not how you want your big games to be viewed. I don't think it's Game Pass's fault that that's happened, but that's the state that these games have been coming out in.
And we're not just saying that as Sony fans, because I mean, partly you guys have got Xboxes anyway, but also you could say the same about Nintendo. They, perhaps fewer and far further between, but Zelda, for example, is probably going to be a must-play, must-have game for anyone who's into that. So it's not just Sony who are doing the exclusives right.
No.
It's Nintendo as well.
The last to be fair as well, The Last of Us on PC has been a complete disaster.
Oh,
That's one that definitely needs to be highlighted, because that's unacceptable.
Well, that's what I mean.
too.
It's this thing of like recently, it feels like every single game is coming out broken, and that's just
fix it
so
later.
mad. Like, it makes me fuming outside of just Xbox of that like longevity of these games and the replayability in 20 years time.
Of having these next gen consoles where it's all about the 60 frames and it's all about the 4K, and half the games can't even bloody do them because they either don't work or they just don't support. Like 30 frames per second for Redfall is shocking on a next gen console.
And I don't believe that that's because that they're having to work backwards for older consoles. I don't believe that that's the reason these games are coming out at 30 FPS. I just think it's just they're not being given enough time to be polished and fixed.
It's a real shame. We spoke a while ago, actually. It might have been before you started, but it's a regular conversation that happens in regards to Game Pass, where Microsoft has acquired all these studios, and that's very exciting because they've got this Game Pass model. And if they line it up correctly, they could have a tentpole or otherwise, first-party exclusive game releasing potentially every 6 months or at least every year.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And
They've tried to make it happen.
And when these games have come out, they haven't hit the mark.
Yeah.
And that, apart from Hi-Fi Rush, which was a shadow drop that no one was expecting, almost as if they potentially didn't have a great deal of faith in it to begin with, which is, I feel like I'm saying it's a shame a lot, but it is such a shame because Game Pass is fantastic. The Xbox is excellent. They've got these amazing studios. And why are these games not hitting? It could be for those reasons that you mentioned, Ashton, that you pulled from the YouTube post. It could be something else entirely. But regardless, there is a huge amount of pressure on Starfield, so much pressure. And I think we all know exactly what Starfield is going to be, which is a Todd Howard game, which is going to be really fun, and a lot of people are going to bounce off it, but it's going to have bugs, and it's going to play exactly like an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout game that Bethesda have made, and that's absolutely fine. It is... I feel like being put into a position where it needs to be this flawless game. And those are expectations that it will not meet because it cannot meet that. And it shouldn't need to meet that. But it's almost been backed into a corner by the growing anti-Xbox sentiment that's been going on since Redfall came out. And also because Redfall was a bit of a disaster and some of the other games before that were as well.
You said, Ashton, it's a bit kind of, again, not quite make or break for Microsoft as a whole, but it is kind of, they're now having to pin a lot more hopes on it than they would have had to do if Redfall had been more of a success.
Well, we made a joke when they announced that they were doing this showcase in June. You made it saying, are they just doing this because Redfall is a pile of trash and they need to avert attention to something else? Obviously there might be some games in there that will be like, oh, that's exciting. Can't wait for that to come out. But they're not probably going to come out this year. So we have to kind of,
Showcase was probably already planned for this time, but certainly the timing of the announcement was curious. Oh my God, battle stations, everyone.
Quickly,
the social media is on fire. We need to announce this big, so they've got this big showcase coming up and then they're immediately going into a Starfield showcase. Starfield, though, I think I'd be surprised if Starfield is bad. I don't think it's going to be a world beater, but it's not going to be. I would be shocked if it was like a Redfall. It's not. I don't think it can.
I don't think it's gonna be bad.
That.
There is a risk though with Starfield. It is easy to say it's probably just going to be an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout. We know what to expect from Todd there, and that is true in that. I think mechanically it will probably play a lot like that. But the one difference is it's allegedly got 1,000 planets,
right?
And with that factor thrown in there, that could make it a lot worse or potentially a lot better. If that's been pulled off really well, surprisingly well, then there might be all this content to go at, which could be fantastic. Or I think a lot of people are looking at it cynically, rightly so, it might just be loads and loads of badly created, procedurally generated, desolate worlds.
No Man's
that are
Sky
boring.
land.
Yeah, No Man's Sky, yeah.
It would be nice to see an Xbox exclusive in the top 5 list of games of the year.
I want a Halo game that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want a Gears 6 that like nobody, like everyone's talking about.
I want people to have Xbox players have the opportunity to vote on something at the Game of the Year awards and be able to be like, I played that on Xbox and it worked great and it was good. Because I don't remember the last time that they were in the top like votable things in.
Yeah, Horizon. I feel like Forza is in there often, but
That's
never
true.
in Game of the Year category. It's
Yeah.
always in like racing and sort of kept away from stuff. Starfield's going to be potentially suffer as well because of this sentiment that's going on at the moment. It may not even be reviewed or even viewed by players particularly objectively. It might be that it's under so much additional scrutiny that every little thing that might otherwise be a footnote in a review is massively
It's like, there's
focused on.
Microsoft. That's them. That's what
Classic
they do.
Microsoft. Like that could be something that they now have to deal with as well.
Well, and if the Activision purchase goes through, I know we're talking about this a lot now. It's just as well we drop question 3.
Yeah.
But if Microsoft essentially then end up with something like Call of Duty under their umbrella, in their hands, if it's actually true that Microsoft are just so badly mismanaging these studios that they are the cause of some of these problems, then the risk then is that like various other high quality or well-known or much loved IPs are then going to be on their watch, and they might start ruining all this like other excellent stuff that people have loved over the years.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not actually the case that just anything under Microsoft is now suddenly being badly managed and it's a curse to be. I mean, again, Hi-Fi Rush, there's evidence there that they can produce good stuff.
Yeah.
But if Microsoft is actually part of the cause here and that they're managing things really badly, God help anything, God help Warcraft or Call of Duty or Crash Bandicoot or anything like that, assuming the purchase ever happens.
Yeah. This June event is so important. It's June, isn't it? that this
Yeah,
is
June
happening?
11th.
It's like the week after the Summer Game Fest. It's on a Sunday, unfortunately, so we won't be able to live react to it because we won't be in the office or around. But we will, of course, cover it on the podcast as and when it comes out. I think it's safe to say that regardless of what you think of Starfield or regardless of what you think of Redfall, this conference needs to go big.
Yeah.
It needs to go big, and Starfield needs to put on a real show in the showcase directly afterwards. But that's a little way away, and we're in, I think, the eye of the hurricane at the moment, and this will settle down, and Redfall will be patched, and it will be improved. But of course, we want to know what you think. Let us know in the comments below, and if you're playing Redfall, what do you make of it? Like, are you enjoying it? Because I have seen a few people on Twitter who are persevering and really liking it. So we want to hear from you as well, if you're one of those people. Peter, where can people find us on the internet?
They can find us at youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. We stream on Twitch and we put videos on YouTube. If you've got Amazon Prime, part of the bundle you are paying for already includes a Twitch sub, and you can spend that on us at no extra cost and get all the usual benefits. When we're streaming on Twitch, we're modded by Lobrotovich, Trolling Badger, and Mr. Black. We are also to be found at twitter.com and facebook.com/Team TripleJump. Twitter for video and live stream announcements, legacy video content, and both, in fact, have all sorts of things on there. Highlights of the week and the weird news post and all sorts of things. TikTok.com/@Team TripleJump for our TikToks that are put there by Ashton Matthews. And patreon.com/Team TripleJump. You can go there and look at all the different tiers that we've got with various rewards attached to them and pick one that you like if you want to pick one at all. No pressure, but it would be good if you would.
We have a website. It's triplejU.mp. Spells jump. It's very clever. And if you'd like to join our Discord, go to triplej.mup/Discord and chat with our wonderful community. Over there, we're modded by Jack, Joe, Tori, and Holloweyes. And if they tell you to do something, bloody well do it.
I haven't heard any instances of weirdness so far this week, so
Good.
Well done, everyone.
Keep it like that.
Well done, everyone.
If you would like to listen to the podcast in its audio forms, why not go triplej.mup/podcast. And to catch up on any of our live stream VODs, go triplej.mup/VODs. To book any of us three and James Jenkins on Cameo, go triplej.mup/cameo.
Maybe you got a wedding coming up.
Yeah. And you want
Major
some
geek.
video games for your Major Geek friends. Why not go to TripleJumpShop.com to buy some sick and cool merch like this, like that.
This is an old hoodie. I think
Like
we do
that?
sell these now.
Yeah, but in a different colour, I think.
Yeah.
Go to TripleJumpShop.com and make sure you're following @TripleJumpShop on Twitter for the latest merch announcements.
Lovely stuff. Why not follow Peter and Ashton on Instagram and Twitter at @PeterAustin and @ScrambledAshton, and myself just on Twitter @confused_dude. We do lists every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, streams every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday being the joint stream.
Blaze it.
Also on Twitch. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday being also on Twitch. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly, Friday for patrons of a certain tier, Sunday for everyone else. Weirdest Games is monthly, a week early for patrons. After Dark podcast is fortnightly on Monday for patrons. The podcast is every Saturday, close. And we do shows all the bloody time. Come check them out. Why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with algorithms, and we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Relatively quiet week for content
Yes, a
this week.
quiet weekend.
By which I mean there's still 5 videos going out on the channel this week, but nothing outside of our usual list and podcast lineup.
Mm-hmm.
However, next week, Ashton.
Yes, next week we have another main menu for you. It's very exciting. It'll also be a Worst Games Ever week next week. So we're doubling up on the content. We're giving you a break for the first week, and then next week we're coming in hard with some more content.
Coming in hard. It's Zelda week next week.
It is Zelda week next week, and we are making a meal from Breath of the Wild, and I would say one of the worst meals we've made since I've started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty
pretty
rancid.
terrible. So give that one a watch when it comes out next Friday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor once again. Remember, with Star Wars Day being a couple of days ago at the time of release, it's still Star Wars Celebration time. If you're going out, getting drunk.
No, that was a little while ago, actually, Star Wars Celebration.
That's an actual official event.
Yeah.
so
And
you
I
can't be
knew it
saying
as
that.
I said it, but okay, it's okay. There's still Star Wars event time.
Celebrating.
Star Wars celebrating. So if you're going out this week with your fellow geeks, be careful and make sure you book a Star Wars Jedi cab driver in association with Disney, who care a lot about you getting home safely after drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for wishling/lotchling, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.